Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
I mean, we were just sitting back,
Artlist.io.
chopping it up, reminiscing about the good old days and all that. Tracking my roots, where I came from and where I'm going. But like I say, man, always said it.
Music licensing
It's not about the
reimagined.
destination. It's all about the journey. Ain't nothing changed but the weather.
Hello again to the only show in South Africa that's fanatically, madly, insanely dedicated to social enterprises, social entrepreneurs, and social entrepreneurship. On the show, we look at entrepreneurship through a social lens, and I'm your host, Tracey Miller. Last week, we had Liana Leonard on the show. She shared with us her social enterprise called Lieflappies. It's an online outlet for handmade products sourced locally. They create a platform for individuals or businesses to showcase their products. Check them out on www.lieflappies, that's spelled lieflappies.myshopify.com. Also, congrats to the BizBlitz team for delivering yet another fantastic networking event today. Sorry, I couldn't make it. But check out the BizBlitz website to find out when their next networking session is happening on www.bizblitz.co.za. Okay, so now on to today's show. I have the privilege of speaking to Ms. Jocelyn Smith. She's a consultant specializing in research in the development sector. She is a research associate of the TEWZ, or the Entrepreneurial Ways, which is also a part of WITS Enterprise. Choose, as it's also known, is the rebranded Center of Entrepreneurship, which was always based at WITS Business School. Her particular interests are in entrepreneurship research and understanding how entrepreneurship and enterprise development programs can help people to develop a more entrepreneurial mindset. This type of mindset can help people to both adapt and take advantage of the challenges of the 21st century and its changing economy. That's quite an introduction, Jocelyn. What an awesome opportunity to have you here. Welcome.
Hi, Tracy. Great to be here.
Fantastic. Jocelyn, let's get right into it. I know a lot of people are listening. I encourage people to listen, especially if you're sitting at your desk and you've always wanted to start a business or get into business, or it's just something that you aspire to do. Before we get into it, won't you tell us a little bit about your experience in the enterprise development sector?
Sure. So there are two types of people who are involved in entrepreneurship. There are those who are entrepreneurs themselves, and there are those who study it. I, unfortunately, am not an entrepreneur, but I am very interested in what it's about, how people go about it, what obstacles they face, and how you help them. I've been in this for about 20 years, and I fell into it when I started looking at some research into skills development in small businesses and how it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always interested in them. Since then, I've been involved in various capacities. I've managed a business information center, I've done program evaluations, I've done some enterprise or entrepreneurship education programs for schools, and recently I've done some research into a model for youth enterprise development in South Africa.
Fantastic. And South Africa's always been your focus, has it?
Yes, that's where I live, that's where I grew up.
Joburg girl.
And I'm a Joburg girl, and Joburg is the entrepreneurial heartland of South Africa, Cape Town,
Yeah.
although there is a great deal happening there.
I'm not sorry for Cape Town. They got a lot of stuff happening.
They've
You're
got other
absolute-
things.
Exactly. Quick one. In fact, they've got the rain. I hear that it's really raining out in Cape Town at the moment. Well
good
done.
for them. I see their
Absolutely.
dams are 70% full.
Fantastic. So, Jocelyn, I just wanted to ask you, what are some of the misconceptions around developing an entrepreneurial mindset?
So I think there are a number of them, and I have a particular interest in developing how one learns to be more entrepreneurial. Now, not everyone is going to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone's going to run a business. And that's where the sort of alignment between me and the Centre for Entrepreneurship, now TUES, was, because they also, their belief is that people can learn to be more entrepreneurially oriented, whether they're employed or whether they become self-employed or whether they're innovators.
Do you think that this mindset is beneficial for us, like you say, whether we're employed, can you explain that to us?
Well, absolutely. I think one of the things we have to know is our economy, as we all do, is changing a lot. What does that mean for people, whether they're employed or unemployed, is that we have to adapt. We have to learn to move with the changes that are happening, but more than that, we have to be able to ride the wave as well. So for a more entrepreneurially minded employee, they are people who adapt, who take initiative, who solve problems. And that can only benefit the public sector and the private sector.
And then people who are entrepreneurs, but they don't have a plan. Or let's talk a bit more about the actual mindset.
Right. So, people think, to go back to your previous question about misconceptions, and one of those is that people are born entrepreneurs. People are born with inherited characteristics.
So we're saying that that's not true. You're not just a born entrepreneur.
No.
There's no such thing. Actually, Harvard Business School also said that, yeah.
Yes.
You're not just
the
born.
research
Yeah.
is quite flimsy on whether you have those kind of traits. You can be you are socialized into it. There's certain cultures where it's a celebrated kind of
Practice.
occupation.
Yeah.
And somewhere it isn't. South Africa, for many historical and traditional and reasons, is not an entrepreneurial society.
We can say that because in other African countries, which African countries are more entrepreneurial than South Africa, for instance?
For example, Kenya, Nigeria, even Zimbabwe. South Africa's a particularly different situation because of our history. Apartheid was one of the key reasons where people were not allowed to open businesses, and those that were allowed they got their licenses quite dubiously. Sometimes it was a tavern or a spaza shop, and those were the only kinds of businesses, or a bottle store. So that was one reason people were not allowed to open businesses. But I think if we have to really understand why entrepreneurship development is difficult in this country, we have to look further than that. And colonialism and land capture was particularly now with the focus on land redistribution and land restitution, I think it's important to understand what happened. Is that there was a destruction of a peasant farming class in South Africa, of subsistence farmers who were able to grow.
And had that not been interrupted, we would have had a more robust, a more active, we would have had more entrepreneurs today.
Perhaps. But I think one of the outcomes of that is that we have a much greater private sector. And we had urbanization of those people. So there was the pull of the cities and mining industry and allied industries, and there was the push of taxes which forced people off their land to pay certain taxes, and they had to find wage labor. And the result is actually South Africa is industrialized in many ways, or was. I think now the economy is changing. But there's still an expectation of people coming out of school or university and getting employed.
Yeah.
Whereas in other African countries where the private sector is very small, they don't have that expectation because there are no jobs.
They have to create jobs.
So they have to create their own.
So we're it's full circle, isn't it? We're kind of in the space now where we have to create jobs. You can't wait and sit and wait for somebody to give you a job anymore. You have to be enterprising.
And the traditional job creators of the past, which employed thousands of people, like the mining industry and manufacturing, those things have changed. So they're no longer able to do that.
Jocelyn Smith joins me from TUES. Am I saying it properly?
Yeah.
TUES.
TUES. Yeah.
It stands for the WITS.
The Entrepreneurial Ways.
The Entrepreneurial Ways. And Ways is spelled with the W-A-Y-Z. It's very funky. Check them out. Do you have a website if anyone wants to check it out?
There is a website. If you Google them, you'll find them on WITS Enterprise.
Let's take a little break while we absorb some of this content. When we come back, we're going to be talking to Jocelyn a little bit more on how businesses can build in a social angle or social impact sort of appreciation in their business models. We talk also about enterprise development. Is it just a tick box exercise? Are there some real people? Are enterprises being developed through this process? Are we making any progress? And then I asked her for something very practical. If there are any tools or tips out there that we can give to you as a budding entrepreneur that can help you develop this entrepreneurial mindset. I'm going to play you a song right now, and it's a song again given to us by MXO. Thank you so much. And this time the track is entitled Thinking About You, and it features Flow Assist from Flowetry and MOT from Mikasa. Enjoy.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. Brandlive.co.za.
I remember you. I remember we. I remember laying my head on your chest and listening to your heart beat. The way you called me queen. The way you called me queen. I remember before they came. I remember before we tamed. I remember the weight of your body as you held me close. The way you whispered my name. The way you whispered my name.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. Brandlive.co.za.
Hi, this is Kulus Kenjana, and you're listening to Active Space's insightful conversations with Ayanda Sitebe. Makos.
It's the official Major World Online Stew Invasion.
Bars on bars.
What about me right now? It's about our guest. Bafethi skip on. I'm out to Lele. Bafethi. I'm afraid nyana studio. Bafethi skip on. Oh, freestyle nyana. Shange freestyle. Fana kuma no baba Andy.
Dayo Andy. Hashtag.
Ahlangani selama uthi beat dog. Nokucela.
Young niggas' ambition, waking up is working for money. Changing their past, feeding their fams, balang lali. We keep it running like SPV, exchanging money.
Man, nice. Hey. Call them unexpected experts. White sweatshirt.
Hey.
Looking down on these niggas, my damn neck hurts.
Woo.
You can go ahead, homie, give me your best work. I bet you take your phone out and mumble up your first words.
Live from 27 boxes in the heart of Melville. This is brandlive.co.za. You're listening to brandlive.co.za.
What a great track by MXO. It features Flosis from Flowetry and MOT from Mikasa. A love song about devotion, loyalty, faithfulness, fidelity, trueness, staunchness, steadfastness. Here, julle moet die hele dictionary gaan uithaal vir my vandag. Constancy, commitment, adherence, allegiance, and dedication. And as my brother would say, as a girl will bowl, then is that your song. Like that is totally your song if you want to get romantic and in the mood. But thank you, MXO, for letting me play that song on our show. It's for a good cause. Back to Jocelyn right now. And before the break, we were talking about some of the misconceptions around entrepreneurship and being an entrepreneur. We started by saying that you're not necessarily born an entrepreneur. That's a common misconception, that you're a born entrepreneur. What's some of the other ones?
Right, some of the others. I mean, after that blues music, we're all so in the
That's
mood.
It's a blues number, girl.
Right, so some of the other misconceptions, and these are the ones that are actually important because they get embedded in plans to promote entrepreneurship. And I think one of the most important misconceptions is that it's the solution to all our unemployment problems. And I think we've got to understand not everyone is going to be an entrepreneur, and it's quite a niche activity for certain people. And for certain people, it can be great. But I think if it's going to be promoted as the solution for the otherwise unemployable, the things that make people unemployable don't mythically appear in an enterprise development program. So that's the one. I think another one is that we just need certain missing ingredients to complete the recipe.
So like funding,
finance,
access to market.
Correct. Yeah. And I think the research, the more current research about entrepreneurship talks about an ecosystem of interdependent parts, which includes markets, finance, government policy, infrastructure and support, human resources, and they all tend to work together. Because if you only look at one of those things, they don't in themselves create entrepreneurs, but they need to be part of a whole ecosystem.
When people hear ecosystem, you think of the environment and
think of your
water.
biology.
Yes,
in grade 8 or whatever it was.
Why? This is such like, it feels like it's a buzzword. You know, like new normal was a buzzword for a few years.
So in a way it is, and it does derive from the biological concept of an ecosystem of interdependent.
The natural concept of an ecosystem.
Yes.
Yeah. So the seed falls into the soil at the right time, and then the water comes because it's spring, or if it's summer rain or whatever your season is. But the seed falls into the soil at the right time. The soil is ready and it's fertile, and it will help the seed to unleash what's in it. that whole cycle,
Correct.
that
And-
whole
and if
cycle
you
of
take
dependency. If you
take
remove the
one
water,
aspect,
yeah,
something will change.
if you put shade over it, it's going to take longer to germinate. If you disturb that little ecosystem, it's going to cause problems down the line, and it won't behave as you want it to behave. And so this is, are you saying this is how people are looking at
this is-
entrepreneurship now?
Policymakers are increasingly looking at entrepreneurship in terms of an ecosystem, and it's not just a case of, I can't start a business because I can't get funding. And I think that's also one of the most common misconceptions.
But we all want money, Jocelyn.
We do.
We need money to pay people's salaries, and we need money to market our business.
It is very important, and you can't do it without money, but you can't do it without a market. And unless you know what your market is and your value proposition is, your funding's not necessarily going to help you. Because to get funding for unsustainable business is going to result in, particularly for young people, in a lot of indebtedness. And people then get put off. We don't have a high tolerance of failure for entrepreneurship in this country.
And do you think it's something that we need to start developing?
I think it would help.
Yeah.
Yes.
As banks, for instance, the minute you have failed at a business, it's difficult to get back up once you've been hit over the head with that big stick.
It's a big stick, and I think that's where we differ from countries like the US, where they don't necessarily look at failure as something that's off-putting for entrepreneurs.
What about the rest of the continent?
Well, I don't think commercial banks play a very large role in financing entrepreneurs, and I think in South Africa still they're not. I think people get money primarily family and friends. I think there's a greater emphasis on banks.
But not everyone's family's got money, hey?
Correct. And the banks tend to look at existing businesses where there's collateral.
Okay, and that's that. Then we go right back to the start where people have been dispossessed and
They don't have that.
Exactly.
Yes.
So let's just quickly recap in terms of misconceptions. We're saying you don't necessarily find born entrepreneurs, which is good because it means it can be taught. You can be led. You can go on a journey towards it.
And it is a journey.
Correct. Yay! And then it's not the solution to all our unemployment problems. Just because you start a business and you take a guy that's been unemployed for 6 months or 2 years or whatever. Who says that person has the right skill to actually do good in your business?
Correct.
Or my business might not be able to employ as many people as there are unemployed in the country.
And also people say, well, I want to do good, so I'm going to train them to do this, and then they'll become entrepreneurs. People don't necessarily want to be entrepreneurs. They would like jobs.
Yeah,
but they
security, right?
They would like to take any opportunity if they don't have anything.
Yeah. And then they get to offices where the bosses tell them, you need to become an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Have you heard that term?
I have. And that's where we talk about a more entrepreneurial mindset. Because, some organizations say, well, I don't want entrepreneurs because they're going to then have off and start their own business and
they'll
be my
steal
competition
they'll
and take
steal
my
your
ideas.
clients and they'll steal your IP and
yes, all of that. But people do want entrepreneurs or intrapreneurs or people who are more entrepreneurially minded. It's a bit of a mouthful. And those are people that will look for opportunities within the business, will grow the business,
put their hand up,
take initiative, adapt. And those are the kinds of things we talk about when we talk about an entrepreneurial mindset.
Okay, and then the last thing is that we just need one thing. We need either funding or access to market, or we just need one thing. And Jocelyn's saying that's a misconception as well. It's actually an ecosystem. We need to develop ecosystems for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial activity to happen in our community. So the question, Jocelyn, is where does social entrepreneurship fit in?
Right. So the issues social enterprises face are the same as for-profit enterprises. So social enterprises has become attractive in South Africa because we have a range of development challenges. We have government not able to address them all. So they are more on the ground. And there's also an opportunity created by legislation such as BEE, where corporates want to be seen to be doing good for the community. They get points, which enables them to transact with government. So that's unleashed quite a lot of funding for social entrepreneurs and social enterprises. So what is a social enterprise? And I think that's a big question.
I've offered 2 definitions over the last 2 weeks, and the more recent one is the one that we spoke about a few weeks ago as well, where you take whatever money you make in the business and you plow it back into the business to create that same social or more social impact.
Correct. You don't distribute it amongst your shareholders.
Yeah, you don't take the profit and put it in your pocket and buy yourself a Porsche. You actually try to employ more people to create bigger or better or more enhanced social impact. You help more people, you produce more products, etc., etc.
So that's the one aspect.
Okay.
And the other aspect is also that you use business principles in running your social enterprise.
Now we're back to the mindset again.
Absolutely.
So quickly, we've run out of time. I wanted to talk to you still about the enterprise development. Is it tick box? Is it working? We have examples of good programs or corporates getting it right out there? I also wanted to talk about tools and anything online that our guys and girls can get their hands on to help them to develop this mindset. Before you get there, can we just quickly talk mindset? What is an entrepreneurial mindset?
So an entrepreneurial mindset is a mindset of someone who is innovative, who is able to find solutions to problems around them, who is resourceful, looks for opportunity, and is able to adapt and look at how to adapt certain behaviors to new things. So that's a kind of, in a nutshell.
So innovative, resourceful, able to adapt. This sounds like khatipi. I'm joking.
Yeah, and we all have these in droves.
But if we just but really, if we think about how people are surviving out there, there are people really struggling, and how they're able to make do with the little that they have. That, in a way, we can say is entrepreneurial in itself.
It is in itself, and I think South Africa also has many examples of criminal entrepreneurs who are very innovative. But I think our challenge is to take those kind of skills and channel them into something productive
and positive. Wow. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. The last question I have for you is the more practical side of things. Let's give our listeners some tips, somewhere they can go online to learn more about entrepreneurial mindset.
Right. So there are a lot of resources if you just Google social entrepreneurship. The one that may be very useful is a podcast that's called Social Enterprise 101 that the Bertha Foundation, which is based at the UCT Business School, have. They have a lot of things there. There's a website called FinFind, which is about finding finance, which gives you various options and who's doing it. And I think it's really about who's your market. And I think the other very important thing in South Africa, you're talking about tick boxes or making real impact, is it really depends if the enterprise is driven from a perceived need in the community around you, or something a funder seems to want to do. And very often in South Africa, they're driven by funders' imperatives, which are not necessarily aligned with what's happening on the ground.
And it's not necessarily what the community needs.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not necessarily what they need for themselves.
So all the measurement becomes what the funder needs, rather than what's happening there.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I wish we could talk for another 20 minutes, but I'm getting the glad eye from our friend back there. He's telling us it's time to go. Let's. I felt we got through some good content on this show today.
We did. Thanks, Tracey. There's a lot to say about this.
Thanks to the Brand Live team. Get in touch with them if you want your brand to go live. Email them on info@brandlive.co.za. And let's try to cultivate an entrepreneurial mindset, people. Talk about enterprise development. Talk about entrepreneurship with your team. Talk about it with your children. Talk about it with your friends, even your boss. Come on. Let's just get going, SA. We can't wait for solutions to fall out of the sky. Let's adapt. Let's become innovative. Let's become resourceful, and let's get to work. I'm going to sign off with a track by Como featuring AO Beats. It's called On My Work. Thank you very, very much for joining me this week. My name is Tracey Miller. Join me again next week. And remember, if you don't invoice by the 3rd meeting, it's a date. Goodbye.
I+IO.
I'm 100 and I'm getting it. Como Lama, luxury. I'm a Niger up in this. When I turn up, you know I'm on my I'm on my.
Music licensing reimagined.
I am so, yes I am so. I'm on my.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
Hop in the level till I reach the skyscraper. I'm so high right now. The smell of success got me saline right now. Tracks upon tracks, I got them stacked up now. I try to tell them no you're wrong, they wanna act up now. My would you? Happy shit on fair for you. Show fair for you. Happy any what fishy yeah.
Artlist.io.
I'm 100 and I'm getting it. Como lomo, luxury. I'm a Niger up in this. When I turn up, you know I'm on my. Yes, I'm on my.
Music licensing reimagined.
I'm so, yes I am so. I'm on my.
Artlist.io. Music licensing reimagined.
If you're joking me, that's okay. I got some season. One pop for that main course. Hit the track like a racehorse. Grind hard like a skateboard. And we ride hard to a stable. 2 spouses, 4 families, 6 hustles, 8 jobs. Grind hard till we make more. Come on, spend the dough till we make more. Diamonds on the wrist, that's the arm way. Me and Como in the kitchen with that hardware. If they talking 2016.
Artlist.io.
Oh yeah.
I'm 100 and I'm getting it. Como lomo, luxury. I'm a Niger up in this. When I turn up, you know I'm on my. Yes, I'm on my.
Music licensing reimagined.
Yes, I am so. I'm on my.
You're listening to brandlive.co.za.